A game with graphics worse than MS Paint turned 500 million people into professional liars overnight. Among Us didn't just break the internet, it broke human psychology. Scientists studied players and found something terrifying. Every mechanic was designed to hack your brain. Here's how they turned you into a paranoid manipulator without you realizing. By the end of this video, you'll never look at Among Us the same way. In fact, you might be genuinely disturbed by how easily your mind was controlled. Let's start with the most brilliant psychological trick, the trust system. When you spawn as a crewmate, the game immediately puts you in a vulnerable position. You need to trust others to survive, but trusting the wrong person means instant death. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your brain is fighting between two conflicting needs. Survival requires trust, but trust threatens survival. This internal conflict keeps your brain hyper-engaged because it can never fully relax. But here's the genius part. The game gives you just enough information to make trust feel logical, but never enough to make it certain. You see someone do a visual task? They're probably safe, but that probably is doing all the psychological heavy lifting. Now let's talk about why being the imposter feels so incredibly satisfying. When you're the imposter, your brain gets flooded with dopamine every time you successfully deceive someone. This isn't just fun, it's literally addictive. The game design creates what's called variable reward scheduling, the same psychological principle that makes gambling addictive. Sometimes your lies work perfectly, sometimes they don't. Your brain never knows when the next win is coming, so it stays constantly engaged, constantly craving that next successful deception. But there's another layer, social dominance. Every time you manipulate the group into voting out an innocent player, you're experiencing a primal satisfaction of outsmarting the tribe. It's the same psychological reward our ancestors got from successful hunting or strategic thinking. The emergency meeting button is pure psychological warfare. The moment someone hits that button, everyone's stress levels spike instantly. Why? Because the game just shifted from individual tasks to high-stakes social combat. Your working memory, the part of your brain that holds information temporarily, gets completely overloaded. You need to remember where you were, who you saw, what tasks you did, who was acting suspicious, and you need to do all of this whilst defending yourself and analyzing everyone else's stories. This cognitive overload is intentional. When your brain is overwhelmed, you fall back on emotional decision-making instead of logical analysis. You start voting based on gut feelings, voice tone, or who spoke most confidently. The imposters know this and exploit it ruthlessly. The time pressure makes it even worse. That countdown timer creates artificial urgency that forces quick decisions. In psychology, this is called time scarcity bias. When we're rushed, we make worse decisions, but feel more confident about them. Here's where Among Us gets truly diabolical. It creates a paranoia feedback loop that gets stronger every round. Every time someone betrays your trust, your brain updates its threat assessment. You become more suspicious, more paranoid, more likely to see danger where none exists. This is called hypervigilance, a psychological state where your brain is constantly scanning for threats. In real life, this is exhausting and unhealthy. In Among Us, it's exactly what keeps you glued to the screen. The game reinforces this paranoia by making everyone look suspicious sometimes. Innocent players make mistakes, act weird, or just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your brain can't distinguish between actual imposter behavior and random coincidence, so it treats everything as potentially threatening. The visual design amplifies this perfectly. Those simple, faceless characters could be anyone. Your brain fills in the gaps with suspicion because it has no other information to work with. Finally, let's expose the most addictive element, why you can never play just one game. Among Us uses what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement combined with loss aversion. Every game ends with either victory or defeat, but the outcome feels random enough that you always think the next game could be different. If you lost as a crewmate, you want revenge. If you won as an imposter, you want to prove it wasn't luck. If you got voted out early, you want redemption. The game sessions are short enough that just one more feels reasonable, but engaging enough that one more turns into 20 more. Your brain gets trapped in what addiction researchers call a behavioral loop. The social element makes it even more addictive. You're not just playing against AI, you're outsmarting real humans. Every victory feels personal. Every defeat feels like a challenge to your intelligence. Among Us exploits one of psychology's darkest discoveries, the bystander effect. In real emergencies, people are less likely to help when others are present because they assume someone else will act. Among Us turns this into a lethal weapon. When you witness a kill or see someone venting, there's a split second where you completely freeze. Your brain is rapidly processing. Should I report this immediately? Will others believe my testimony? What if I'm completely wrong? This crucial hesitation is exactly what skilled imposters count on for their survival. The game creates what psychologists call diffusion of responsibility. With 10 players present, everyone subconsciously assumes someone else. This false sense of security allows imposters to kill in plain sight. The reporting system makes this psychological trap even worse. You must actively choose to call a meeting, making you personally responsible for the accusation and its consequences. Many players avoid reporting suspicious behavior because they fear being wrong and looking foolish to the group. The game has weaponized basic civic duty by turning it into a social risk. Here's a psychological trap most players never realize they're trapped in. Among Us isn't just a game, it's a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Every mechanic, every design choice, every social interaction has been crafted to exploit specific vulnerabilities in human psychology. The developers didn't just create a fun game. They created a psychological experience that taps into our deepest social instincts: trust, betrayal, survival, and dominance. And that's exactly why 100 million people couldn't stop playing. The next time you boot up Among Us, remember, you're not just playing a game. You're entering a carefully designed psychological experiment where you're both the subject and the lab rat. And honestly, that makes it even more brilliant. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and share so we get the chance to come back to you with more.